Hey guys, what's going on? Clocky clocking in. We have Secluded Springs out and about. I'm currently packing into a house. So I don't have my webcam or anything. I just got a basic setup right now. We're gonna look at these cards, see if any of them are good. There's not too many, so this will be quick. We'll go through them, see which ones are good, which ones are trash, go from there. There's some interesting ones in this set for sure. At first glance, I was like, yeah, these are okay, but there's some fun stuff in here. We got the Jumpluff line. I'm surprised Jumpluff was the one that got the EX. I was thinking it was going to be like Meganium. Nope, Jumpluff. It's got a... This is a grass card you can put in any deck because it uses colorless energy to attack, which is cool. Breeze by attack, you may switch this Pokemon with one of your benched Pokemon. Pretty cool. You can hit with this thing and then back off. I think this is fun, but I don't know how practical it is. But it's cool. We've got Sunflora, trip over, flip a coin. If has his attack does 30 more. We don't care. We want to talk about Celebi. Now, this card is interesting. If you're going to hit him with Temporal Leaves for 40 damage, sounds kind of, you know, underwhelming. It's not. If your opponent's active Pokemon is an evolved Pokemon, you devolve it by putting the highest stage evolution card on it into your opponent's hand. So if this is the card to counter rare candy decks. If you hit something and it's a rare candy Pokemon or Pokemon that evolved using rare candy, it goes back to the basic and it carries over damage done. So most basic Pokemon you're evolving from, you know, into like a stage 2, probably 60-70 health, right? So if you're attacking something that's already has, you know, a bit of damage on it, you hit it for 40 damage. It doesn't sound like a lot. It is, because you'll devolve it back to a basic. That's the craziest part about this too. Obviously this is kind of like a weird card in some cases because you could hit like a Sylveon EX with this. And if you're not knocking it out, they get to play it again and draw more cards. That's like the worst thing. Like, you don't want that to happen at all. But I mean, if you're knocking it out, then you're good. But that you got to be knocking it out. That's the only thing. But this is a fun card. I like this a lot. I think this is a card I would run like one copy of in a deck, though. I don't think this is a card you run more than one copy of, because this isn't a card you're like desperately trying to get, because there are still tons of basic EX decks that get played, tons of basic Pokemon that get play. You know, if this was like the Solgaleo EX meta that we had a couple months ago that was very prominent, I mean, it still is, but it's not as prominent as it used to be. If it was still very prominent, this card would slap. This card would be so good, but because of, you know, we don't really have a whole lot going on with anything right now as far as a lot of this stuff goes, or that we don't have too many rare candy stage 2 decks. This is cool, but it's not the craziest thing. Granted, if it wasn't your opponent's hand, if it was into their deck, I think this card would be sick. But because it's just into your opponent's hand, it's like, if they're stage 2, you're destroying them. But if it's not stage 2 with the rare candy, then it's like just a mild inconvenience. We got Durant. Discard the top card of your opponent's deck. I actually kind of like this. This one's another fun one too, actually. The fact that it's like a one prize. We got Slugma and Macargo. Not that great. We got Entei EX. I haven't talked about it on the channel, so we'll talk about it, but people have been talking about this already. If you can get 4 fire energy on this thing, it will do 60 more damage. So it can do 120 damage. You just have to be able to get energy onto it. You can use Magby. I've seen people try to use like Turtonator and Elemental Discharge, or Switch, Elemental Switch. That stuff, not too bad. This card is good though. I think the fact that you can hit him for 60 and then keep hitting after that is not bad either. It's not great, but I think this is a decent card. It's fun. I don't think it's meta defining, but it's good. We got Talonflame. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now burned for 50 damage. This is a pretty decent like rare candy target, I guess. But the fact that you're only hitting for 50 is like, eh. I mean, technically 70, I guess. So not the worst, but you have to make sure they can get burned too. And Arceus is still very prominent. So anything that has like effect damage, I feel like it's kind of like, it's cool, but then Arceus sometimes exists. The Poliwag line, we'll get back to the Poliwag line because the EX is a fighting type. Poliwrath, so we'll get to that. But Poliwag, Call for Family, you get to put a random Poliwag onto your bench. Not too bad. And it's colorless as well, which is actually pretty good. You got Poison Sting. You got Stun Poison on Tentacruel here. Not a bad choice for Will. It only does 50 damage, but it poisons and paralyzes if you can hit heads. So if you can use Will, poisoning and paralyzing is like a solid combo. Definitely not a card I think will get a crazy amount of play, but it's not a bad card. I like it. We've got Slow King here. Litter. Discard up to 2 Pokemon tools from your hand. Does 50 damage for each, so you can do 100 damage. For a stage 1 with 130 health, not bad. Not bad at all, honestly. Not crazy good, but it pairs with a supporter that is also in this set we'll talk about too. Jinx, Dazzle Dance, Confusion, it's whatever. 2 water energy is pretty crazy. Suicune EX is really good. This is probably going to end up in a lot of decks for good reason. At the end of your turn, if this Pokemon is in the active spot, you get to draw a card. Entei has this ability as well. I don't think we talked about that. So you're drawing cards, which is really good. And then this attack does 20 damage for each benched Pokemon. So if your bench is full and your opponent's bench is full, that's 120 damage. I think in most cases, you are going to be doing like at least 60 damage with this thing by the time you get enough energy on it. If not like 80 or even 100 damage. I think this is we haven't had like a good water Pokemon that has like, I don't know what you'd call this type of deck, like a rush down deck or whatever, a deck where you want to hit fast. That is this. I don't feel like we've had that with water Pokemon yet. So I love that this is what this is. It also makes your opponent think a little bit. Granted, sometimes you might only be doing 60 damage with this thing if your opponent doesn't play anything else, but if they're not playing anything else, the hope would be that you're building up something much stronger on your bench. Like maybe Gyarados, the one we just got. You would play like, I don't know, anything that you're trying to build on the back line while this thing is attacking. That is what I feel like this is for. This is your front runner. This is what you want hitting first. And then you're building stuff in the back. So I like this. This is good. Fun card. Probably going to be a staple in a lot of water decks for sure. The Milotic line is really cool. The Feebas is pretty much just Magikarp. And then Milotic, when you evolve, once during your turn, and you play this Pokemon to evolve, you can heal 60 damage from one of your water Pokemon, which is pretty sick. It is pretty much Lily, but for any Pokemon that's a water type. Awesome. We love that. That's actually pretty cool. Mantike, the defining card, I feel like, of this set. It also is the crown, but this makes most water decks viable. You take a water energy from your energy zone and attach it. It's a baby Pokemon. It's also got the crown rare as well, which looks beautiful. I love this thing. I hope I can pull it. But it looks good. All in all, it's a solid card. Exactly what water Pokemon needed. So this will definitely bring water decks a little bit back more into the meta because they haven't really been there. So I'm glad we actually have a consistent card for that now. Let's see, Cragganol, nothing to talk about. Ice Blade, 40 damage to a random Pokemon. Not the worst, not the best. Raikou EX, probably the weakest of the 3 in my opinion. It has the ability, and then for 2 electric energy, it does 10 damage to one of your opponent's benched Pokemon. Like, yeah, this is neat for opening up Cyrus opportunities, I guess. Or maybe some other stuff you could probably pull off, but the fact that it's 2 retreat cost as well is like crazy to me, because most lightning type Pokemon, even EXs, they only have 1 retreat cost. So I thought maybe because, you know, this doesn't have the same damage potential that Suicune and Entei have, that this would be hitting. Nah. Nah, it's just 60 and then 10 damage. I don't know. I feel like this is kind of a weak card, to be honest with you. I feel like there are a lot of other options that, like it takes a second to get set Luxray up, but like Luxray is almost better because it can snipe things on the bench. You know, you can just pick a Pokemon and hit it. So it takes a minute to set it up, I guess, and this doesn't require that setup, but I don't know. This card is very underwhelming to me. I can't imagine it's going to be in too many decks. I mean, maybe, you know, we'll see some play with it. I saw someone made like a Magnezone deck. That's cool, but like Magnezone's good on its own. You can't just throw Raikou into a deck you can't throw anything into a deck with Magnezone and then be like, it's a good deck because, you know, and it's a good deck because Magnezone's in it. So, it's not a bad card. We've got the Electros line. You can do 120 damage with Electros. Pretty good. Only does 20 damage to itself. Not bad, honestly. This is like a better alternative to Ampharos. Granted, Ampharos is Ampharos is a stage 2 as well. So if you were like, you know, all about Ampharos, you probably like this because it doesn't require a coin flip. However, I will say Tynamo only has 40 health. So you're going to have to be really mindful of that. It's not a lot of health at all. Especially with a fighting type weakness. All it takes is a Tyrogue to knock you out turn 1. So probably not that great. We've got Stunfisk. Yamper evolves into Boltund. If this Pokemon has damage on it, this attack can be used for 1 electric energy. Not bad. Honestly, pretty decent. Kind of fun. The fact that you can do 70 damage for 1 energy as long as the Yamper has some damage on it. I feel like that's not bad. You know, it makes your opponent think, and, you know, You can also use, there's another card that we can use as well with this to make this card a little bit better, and we'll get to that. We got Mischievous. It has an ability. Once during your turn, you put this Pokemon from your hand into your bench, you can have your opponent reveal their whole hand. That's pretty cool. Curse Pros is pretty cool for Mismagius. At the end of your opponent's next turn, you do 90 damage to the defending Pokemon. I don't know how this works exactly yet. I haven't seen many people play this card. I can't imagine it's that good. I mean, 90 damage is a lot for one energy, but it's at the end of your opponent's next turn. So, like, if I knock you out, and then that gives me the prize, and then you knock me out, and that gives you the prize, does that mean we tie? Maybe. I don't know. If I switch out, do I still take the 90 damage? Probably not. So I imagine this is super, like, I don't know. It's an interesting ability, don't get me wrong, or an interesting attack, I should say, but I just don't feel like it'll get too much play. But who knows? Maybe I'll be wrong. We've got Galarian Corsola, and then we got Galarian Cursula. It should just be Cursula. I don't know why it has to be Galarian. If this Pokemon is in the active spot and is knocked out by damage from an attack, you flip a coin, and then if it's heads, the attacking Pokemon gets knocked out, which is pretty cool. It does 60 damage. This is a fun card, in my opinion. I like this a lot. It's not good, but it's, like, funny in a way. Because if this is all you have, other than, like, something on your bench, or maybe you just have 2 of these out, and your opponent's running, like, Giratina or something, they're just gonna look at you, and they're gonna be like, well, and then you have to hope you flip heads on the coin. Like, if you do, then you're golden, but you gotta hope you're flipping, you know, you gotta hope you're flipping heads. So it's okay. The fact that it relies on a coin flip, though, is kind of rough. Latias is pretty decent. If Latios is on your bench, you do 40 damage instead of 20. And then Latios has no retreat cost if Latias is in play. And then you discard all, you do Luster Purge for 120, discard all energy. Not terrible. I mean, it's not great, don't get me wrong. 120 damage. You know, if you could, like, magically set up 2 Gardevoir behind this thing, and then you'd be set, you know, you'd be doing 120 damage every turn, but, like, the odds of that happening are slim to none. Even with, like, Sylveon EX and stuff, you'd have to luck out so hard on this. So I don't think this is gonna get a whole lot of play, but it's cool, and people love Latios, so I'm sure we'll see this in decks. It's not the best, but it's not the worst either. Definitely not a bad option for, like, a 1 prize deck, though, for sure. The Jellicent line's here, not too bad. Diglett and Dugtrio are back. God, we gotta have so many Diglets and Dugtrios at this point. Dugtrio is pretty interesting. Discard the top card of your deck. If it's a fighting type Pokemon, this will do 60 more damage, so it'll do 100 damage, which is, like, really good. But that means you have to, like, run like a ridiculous amount of fighting type Pokemon. This works with Hiker too. Like, if you just played Hiker and you know, like, you can rearrange your cards in whatever fashion you want, you can put whatever fighting type Pokemon you have out of the however many cards you can see with Hiker, put that on the top, boom, you know you're doing 100 damage. So it's not bad. I don't think it's great, but it's definitely an option for sure. You know, you think about the options, it's exciting. I like it. Poliwrath EX. This card's crazy. This card is good. Use this card, in my opinion. It is very good. If this Pokemon has any water energy attached, it does 40 more damage. 140 damage. You just like run a Poliwag deck with only fighting energy, and then you run Mantike. And then you make sure you get Mantike into the position to put energy onto a Poliwag at some point, and you're set. Or you run Misty too. I mean, you can always run Misty before this becomes Poliwrath EX, and then play Misty and then get some energy that way too. You just need 1 water energy too, and then you're off to the races with this thing. Not a bad card at all. I actually quite like it. It is interesting. You can pair this with Politoed as well. Politoed gives other Poliwhirl Pokemon, or Pokemon that evolve from Poliwhirl, I think it's 40 extra damage. So this thing can hit for 180 damage if you can get lucky enough to set up a Politoed behind it. There is a world, by the way. I just want to throw this out there. It's not ever going to happen, but it could. But you could run this with Politoed and then 2 Lucarios on your bench and do 220 damage. I just want to put that out there. Is it going to happen ever? No. But could it? Yes. And we love the possibility of could. So anyway, this is a fantastic card. Love it a lot. We got Phanpy. This attack does damage to your opponent's active Pokemon equal to the damage this Pokemon has on it. I thought this was kind of bad, but there's a card here soon that we'll see that actually makes this not a bad move. And then Donphan takes 20 less damage from attacks, 80 damage with Land Crush. Let's talk about the card I'm talking about. I keep bringing it up. We'll skip. We'll come back. We'll come back, don't worry. I'm going to talk about Memory Light real quick. Memory Light is a neat card. The Pokemon this card is attached to can use any attack from its previous evolutions. That's really good. So at first I didn't think this card was that great. I'm like, yeah, it's a neat tool, but you know, you have to make sure you pull it and everything. But honestly, it's not bad. And like if you're using Donphan, it has 120 health. If you have an opponent attacking you and you only have like 20, 30 health left, you can use Memory Light to use Flail from Phanpy. So you can do damage equal to your the damage you have on this Pokemon. So if you have 110 damage on you, you can do 110 damage. You don't have to, and it's only one fighting energy, so you don't have to worry about, you know, building up to Land Crush or whatever. Or while you're building up to Land Crush, you could do this. Memory Light has a lot of really interesting applications that I'm too dumb to think about right now. But anytime you're evolving, this is you know, there are a lot of these Pokemon like Crustle here, right, where it needs 4 energy to attack. But if you stick a Memory Light on it, you could do the Dwebble attack for 30, which isn't a lot, but at least you're doing something. You know, at least you're setting something up, you know, and you're going to have a Pokemon with more health. Guzma obviously counters this, but I was thinking of, like, you know, Gengar EX. I was thinking of, like, you could rare candy a Ghastly into Gengar EX, like, immediately. And normally it takes forever to build energy on it, and you're not doing a whole lot during that time. But if you're using Memory Light, you don't have to worry about Guzma because you're running Gengar EX, and you can use attacks from previous, like from your Ghastly. I assume the way Memory Light reads, if I remember correctly, by the way, these arts, by the way, are stunning. I love these arts. The way it reads is that it's any attack from its previous evolutions. I don't think that necessarily means that it has to be, it probably has to be on the card. So if you rare candy from a basic, you're only using the basics attacks. You're not using the stage 1, just so you know. So like you could use like Ghastly into Haunter into Gengar to give you more attack options, I guess. But if you really quickly want to set up Gengar EX, the options there with Memory Light. Memory Light is also a fantastic card, I think, with Sylveon EX, because then you can still, like, if you evolve into Sylveon EX, but it's in a deck where you can't attack with it, you can use Memory Light to still use Find a Friend, which is like so stupid. I think that's insane. Like, if you're really truly trying to find what you're looking for, Memory Light I think is going to be a solid option in some decks for sure. But I wanted to talk about that real quick. We got Seviper, does more damage if Zangoose is in the active spot. Cool, I guess. Zoroark's pretty neat. If you knock out the opponent with this attack, Night Days, you don't have to take any damage next turn. I mean, Sabrina obviously moves you, but if they don't have Sabrina, they can't attack you next turn. And then you can kind of do whatever you want the turn after. If you want to retreat this into something stronger, or if you want to build something else up or whatever, or you're okay with this getting knocked out and you're glad you had the free turn to do an extra 70 damage. You know, honestly, a really fun card. I like this quite a bit. I think it'll be seeing a lot of play here soon. We got Malamar, does 20 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon. Actually, not the craziest. It's not that bad. Actually, I like this more than like Raikou EX, you know? It's not great, but it's like a better Spiritomb. It's pretty neat. 20 damage in this game can be a lot, depending on people running like baby Pokemon and stuff. You'd be surprised. Dragalge, 70 damage for 3 energy. Altaria and Swablu are in this. I like this. It's like Silvally, kinda. If this Pokemon has 2 or more different types of energy attached, does 60 more damage. It's not like as consistent as Silvally, don't get me wrong. I think the thing that makes Silvally so good is that there is a card that can pull it from your deck with Gladion. This doesn't have that. And there's no guarantee that you're ever going to get 2 types of energy attached. I mean, maybe you run like a 3 energy deck this would be really good in, you know, maybe this is a good companion for like, I don't know. Maybe you would run this with Silvally, you know, maybe this and Silvally would be like a fun combo, honestly. Maybe you throw Oricorio in there too, because you just hate people. I don't know, but I could see this being fun to play. So I think this might get some show because there's no weakness either, and 120 health with the Giant Cape makes it 140. That's pretty good, especially if you can get this thing attacking fast, which you can with baby Pokemon and stuff. So we got a Farfetch that does more damage than the other one does for 60, kind of neat. Look at Tongue, Stretch Tongue, 30 damage to a random Pokemon for 2 energy, and then it does 60 damage to a random. This is kind of funny as a sniper. I mean, it's not as good as the Decidueye, granted, but it is only a stage 1. So this may see some play for sure. It'll definitely snipe some stuff on the bench. So I don't know, we'll see. The thing is though, it takes 3 energy to get there. Whereas Decidueye, I think you're sniping with 70 damage for 2. It's a stage 2, but you just need rare candy, so I don't know. It's interesting, I guess. Igglybuff, you attack for 10, and you put the Pokemon across from you asleep. I feel like this has a ton of potential just to be so annoying. Is it good? I don't know, but it's definitely going to be annoying. Teddiursa, if you get heads, it does 40 damage. That can be good if you can pull Will. However, Ursaring is not that great. 4 energy to do 110 damage. Not feeling it. Okay, Miltank. Can we talk about Miltank? I love that Miltank has this attack. You do 10 damage, but until this Pokemon leaves the active spot, this attack stacks and adds 30 damage each time you use it. So it starts with 10, then it does 40, then it does 70. You could pair this with Pokemon, like you could pair this with Darkrai. So instead of doing like 10 and then 40 and then whatever, you're doing 10 and then you're doing 60 and then you're doing, what is it? 100. I don't know. It gets crazy, or 90, I should say. It gets crazy. You're doing tons of damage fast. Gotta love it. Here's a Zooral. This card's interesting. You heal 50 damage from one of your benched Pokemon. I kind of like this, but I feel like it is like baby Pokemon are only good at early game. This is a card you'd want to use late game. So like I see the appeal in using this card, but I don't see like how often it's going to be more useful than like, I don't know, Pokemon Center Lady, where I don't have to worry about something getting knocked out and I'm losing a whole point. If this was like more like the regular TCG where it's like 6 prizes, then I'd get it. I'd be like, maybe this has value. And like 50 damage is a lot, don't get me wrong, but the fact that you're probably sacrificing this thing just to heal something, I don't know. I don't think I see much value in that, unfortunately. Swablu, we talked about Altaria earlier. Zangoose, if this Pokemon is in the active spot and is damaged by an attack from your opponent's Pokemon, you do 20 damage. Pretty much Druddigon. It's a Druddigon with a little less health. You know, it's got a fine type weakness. But it is 2 colors energy to do 50 damage, so honestly not a bad option in a lot of decks that like Druddigon. Also, like, if you want to be annoying, you can run this with Ilima. Would you? I guess you could, but I don't see much value in that. But hey, you can get creative, don't get me wrong. Fletchling is in this. Flip a coin. You can do 40 damage with this thing, which I think is kind of fun. It only has 50 health though, so you have to be careful of that, because yeah, especially against electric types, you could get knocked out pretty quickly. We got an inflatable boat. It's a tool. If you put this on a water Pokemon, they have 1 less retreat cost. Can be super helpful in a lot of different water decks for sure. Pretty much kind of like a fun leaf. Because once you retreat with this thing too, even if you get hit with Guzma, you don't care. You've retreated. Like, you've done the thing you wanted to do anyway. So we got Whitney. This is only for Miltank. I mean, you can make such a funny Miltank deck with this. This is essentially Pokemon Center Lady for Miltank, and it heals for more. Instead of 30, it heals for 60. And it does pretty much everything Pokemon Center Lady does. But it heals for way more. It's to keep the Miltank going, which is so funny to me. And if you're worried about Sabrina on Miltank, you just run Miltank. Like, you only play Miltank. And then you keep attacking with it. And if you can keep it alive for long enough, you don't have to worry about, you know. And then, like, eventually when you know your Miltank's going to get knocked out, you just set up another Miltank. You just put the other one out. It only needs 1 energy to attack. It's crazy. Traveling Merchant's cool. If you're running a deck with tools that you know you need, like you know you need a Memory Light, you can run Traveling Merchant. You have to look at the top 4 cards of your deck, and then all Pokemon tools you want, you can put into your hand. I think it just says put all tool cards. Yeah, it says put all of them, so you don't get to choose. Yeah, if you're seeing tools, you're getting them. So, and then you shuffle the other cards back into your deck. So I can see this being really good, but I can also see like me doing this and then getting red carded right after I do it. This is when you need the tools right then and there. Obviously it has some play with Slowking, whatever, you know. I can see it being useful in some decks though. Like Skarmory EX would like that as a card a lot. We got Morty here. For each of your psychic Pokemon in play, you look at that many cards on the top of your opponent's deck and you can mess with them. I actually like this a lot, even more than like Silver almost. I mean, Silver you can take away a threat, but you can red card somebody and then Morty them, and then you get to look at what cards they're gonna get next and then mess with them. It's just like being able to mess with the top 4 cards up to the top 4 cards on someone's deck is like so funny to me. Because like Hiker, this is like the opposite of Hiker, right? But it's for psychic Pokemon. The thing is though, if you use Hiker and you don't get much value, like you set your cards around, if someone hits you with red card, doesn't matter anymore. Your deck gets shuffled, it doesn't even matter, or you get hit with Mars, whatever. It shuffles your cards around. Anything you do with Hiker there doesn't matter anymore. Morty, however, Morty can work the same way. Like if someone plays Pokeball, it shuffles stuff, so it doesn't matter. But I mean, if you know you can get rid of something out of their hand. If you know you can stop them from getting those Pokeballs, maybe that'll help you out. But or like, I don't know, people run Poke Communication much anymore. Sometimes people do. That shuffles the deck as well. So, you know, this definitely has some counter to it, but like it's still funny to play for sure. And I think that's pretty much it. We've kind of covered everything. There's definitely some interesting cards in this deck. The art in this deck, by the way, or this set, I mean, is beautiful. Love the art in this set. The rainbow borders are all clean. The Entei and Raikou look so good, and then the immersive Suicune. I love that the Mantike is the crown, too. I was thinking they were going to give us Suicune. Nope. They gave us Mantike. Anyway, let me know what your guys' favorite card is from this set. I'm excited for a bunch of these cards. I don't think anything's too meta shaking here, although we will start seeing a lot more water decks that used to be just okay be way better now. You're going to see a ton more water decks, which I love because I feel like fire type Pokemon have had it too good for too long. So I'm so excited to see some water decks get made. I'm so pumped to be playing more Pocket with you guys. I hope you guys are excited as well. Sorry this video is a little weird with, you know, it's just this. But I hope you guys had a fantastic time watching. I'll be back with the webcam soon. And this is Clocky, clocking out. I'll see you around.